this is Governor Bob Ehrlich. Good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Go!
You're watching Dr. Politics.
They're Dr. Politics. He's the one to see. Breaking down the news with sharp analysis. From Congress halls to campaign trails, he tells the truth when all else fails. They're Dr. Politics, Dr. Politics, exposing the spin, the lies and tricks. Dr. Politics, Dr. Politics, he calls it straight, no politics as usual. Love from backroom deals to primetime fights. He sheds some light and sets things right. Debates, elections, policy. He cuts through all the DC sleaze. Oh, Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics, go away. Dr. Politics, he's got the facts. Dr. Politics, no holding back. Dr. Politics,
Hey everyone, it is Friday, September 19th, 2025. We are only hours are left in summer of 2025. Hours. Next week at this time will be in fall. And next thing you know, we'll be flipping those clocks back and it'll be dark at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I gotta love winter, not.
I mean, it's already dark in the morning, so
I actually don't mind that because those people on the highways who forgot how to put sunglasses on or visors on, they don't slam their brakes when they see the sun. But yeah, it is dark in the mornings, and it's not good. It is not good, Busy week again. A lot of stuff around the Charlie Kirk assassination has been, high profile in the news. And I don't know, Don, I don't know if you caught AOC's little floor tirade today about Charlie Kirk.
yeah.
And the fact that, it's like, how does that happen? How does that happen?
Well, I mean,
It's redistricting because it's Queens, I guess. So
No, but honestly, I tell you, it's like we wouldn't be saying these things. Let's say if Gloria Steinem, hypothetically, no one's wishing, but let's say she got shot riding the subway in New York City, because that's where she lives, right? She lives in Manhattan. We wouldn't be celebrating. We wouldn't be saying she's a victim of her own politics or anything like that. We'd be sad that Gloria Steinem is no longer with us because we can no longer make fun of her, especially the way she talks.
well, I mean, AOC was, she was giving her response to, a resolution about Charlie Kirk, for which she was, definitively against, and she couched her little speech there, talking about, she wasn't endorsing, the violence and all of this kind of things, and she thought the death was kind of abhorrent, but she, as liberals do, and sometimes even some fringy conservatives, is that they can't resist taking this moment and then trying to turn it to their own ends by saying, let's not forget who Charlie Kirk really was, and then lists a litany of things that that they're the left talking points on Charlie Kirk, which have been largely disproven, taken out of context, all of these types of things. So
Yeah, the
it,
New York
it,
Times had to backtrack on some claim that they said he said, and he was saying it, but he was rebutting it, and it was
Yeah.
he
And
was
remember, and it's not just her. If she was but not to be outdone, Jasmine Crockett.
but no, she's just such a ridiculous character.
And let's not forget, Hillary Clinton also made some very, very not quite ladylike remarks. Then again, no one's ever accused her of being a lady.
No,
Yeah.
but Crockett so embarrassed herself. Who was she? It was with Patel, not Dwight, but Cash Patel, and
Cash,
he was
yes.
well. She had questioned him, and she didn't even really ask any questions. And just finally, when she was done, Jordan, the chairman, I guess, of government oversight, he just said to Cash Patel, "Do you want to respond to any of that?" Because it was such a joke and it was so ridiculous, and I think people realize that. And I also think that it's kind of a lot of these members are embarrassments to their districts. Jamie Raskin, for example, a true embarrassment to Montgomery County, but they don't think
Yes.
about it, I
But
guess.
not to be outdone by your three esteemed Northern Virginia Congress people. How do they go from Frank Wolf to what's her name that's in that seat now?
What was it? Wexton beforehand,
Yeah.
Spanberger, but she's the seventh. We have Connolly, who's dead now. We got a new Democrat replaced
It's
him.
his chief of staff.
Yeah.
That guy. He's been with Connolly since he was a board of supervisors chair.
Yeah.
When Gary ran in 07 for board supervisor, he was the campaign manager for Jerry Connolly for council.
Okay. Yeah.
So irate when somebody asked him if he's going to run for Congress, turn around and Jerry Connolly goes, I resent it. Nobody asked Bill Clinton if he was going to run for president after he won. Actually, they did, Jerry. They did ask Bill Clinton. And he said, no, Arkansas is my priority. I am going to finish my term. You know who else said that? Wes Moore a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Wes Moore said basically take the stake in the same position. I don't know. Maybe he'll try to run again. Oh, but speaking of Frank Wolf, Dwight, I keep hearing his name mentioned as running for the Senate next year.
Really? He's going to come back up here and run?
That's what I hear. I mean, I don't think he's too old. Maybe he's not too old. Maybe he's still spry enough. But
yeah. And I think, you ever hear Frank talk on the slave trades in Wilberforce?
No.
He does a very passionate talk on that, and he talks about the human trafficking. That's like it was his big issue.
Yeah. Well, Frank was always big on human rights.
So he'd be running against who? Tim Kaine or Warner?
Yeah.
Is Warner gonna not run again or something?
Well, Frank's would be great. I just don't know if people still remember him so much, because that was years ago when he retired, right? That's over 10 years.
And I heard he moved to Florida too.
Oh, did he? Okay. Well, I know his grandson ran for office.
Oh, what did he run for?
He was
Caleb ran, I think, in the one of the congressional districts in Northern Virginia. It might have been the 10th, which was Wolf's old district.
How old is he, Don?
He was born in 1939. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Well, it may not be true. Maybe someone's just floating it, or maybe it's a draft sort of thing. I don't know. I just heard buzz.
Well,
I think they're wistful, like Dwight, looking back at the days of Frank Wolf, Tom Davis, Barbara Comstock, all these people.
Stan Paris.
Yeah,
Stan Paris represented Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah, you could watch the election results, and you would see, the R's would click off in Virginia, but now it's a completely different ball game.
That's true, but scratch Barbara Comstock off your list. She's backing Spanberger for.
Really?
Yeah, she did endorse her. Yeah.
She's one that it was Trump derangement syndrome that went to Barbara.
Her and, Carly Fiorina was like that too. Ted Cruz's running mate.
Yeah, I remember her. But Barbara I've known her for decades now, really. I first met her decades ago, and she
Is
was
that her company, Barbara Comstock Construction? Is that her family's business?
I don't think so, but I don't know. But she was thought of as a conservative. She worked for Ashcroft, but I don't know if she ever was really a deep down conservative. I don't know. But she has gone to the left. I mean, I don't think she endorsed Youngkin. I think she endorsed McAuliffe.
No, she would not. Then again, Bobby Kilmer did a fundraiser for Terry McAuliffe,
Well,
so.
I don't know about the McAuliffe case, but I think Trump derangement syndrome ruined her. The other thing that upset Barbara is, remember, in Trump's midterm, she lost, so she probably blames Trump, but she had a primary challenge from Shaq Hill, and I think that kind of soured her on a lot of MAGA folks.
Well, I mean, why were we? Why do we primary our people? If we've got unless they're really bad, like Wayne Gilchrist was.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I wouldn't support the primarying of her or any, like, for example, in Texas, Cornyn, why primary him?
I don't know. I think Cornyn's going to pull that one. I think Cornyn's going to pull that race off, though.
Who, Cornyn?
Yeah.
I kind of hope so, because we need to win the seat. And if you have a primary and he has to battle a primary challenger, it's not going to help him.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, Cornyn.
And this is where the Republicans keep doing damage to themselves. They have these opportunities to cement themselves for the long term, but then they do things like this. I mean, either put a bad candidates to run, or they primary our own people, and then they, because of a MAGA or Tea Party or whatever it is, whatever the revolution is, they knock off somebody who's the more credible, winnable candidate, and then we lose the seat. And then most of the time we lose the seat. We lose that seat for a long period of time, if not forever.
Forever.
Yeah, right.
Like, remember Delaware? Remember that seat? We could have won that with who was the congressman who ran for that? Carper?
Remember Mike Castle? You mean the Senate seat was lost because Christine O'Donnell, they nominated her.
Yeah, she put a hex on him.
Yeah,
she did her nose thing, and
she was on NET. I used to see her on NET.
She was a very nice person,
she
came to Wyrick lunch and everything like this. And she was very nice, but she's like, no,
Castle would have won that.
Candidate.
Yeah. Just like in Connecticut,
Sharon Angle ran in Nevada. Nice person. Wrong.
Yeah. It's just like we had that in Connecticut, where we could have won the Connecticut Senate seat for the first time in a long time since maybe Prescott Bush. I don't know.
And remember Indiana, remember Missouri from the mid-2000s. We've had a lot of, remember Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania, Herschel Walker in Georgia. I mean, we just continued to...
If McCormick had won that primary, McCormick would have run for re-election this last cycle, or he'd be up for re-election now.
Yeah, well, McCormick's good. But the thing also is, even now in Georgia, and I guess you can't draft him if he doesn't want to run, but if Kemp were our nominee for the Senate, it's a slam dunk. Slam dunk.
Yeah, well, right. If Kemp would run, it would be good, because those Georgia senators, those Democrats, they're not any good. Yeah, they're beatable. But you got to have.
How old is Bob Barr? Is Bob Barr still with us? If you're listening, Congressman,
I think he's still with us, but he's up there in age. He's up there in age.
That's the problem. I mean,
age doesn't matter. Just tell that to Strom Thurmond. Okay, sorry, Senator Barr.
But Strom's been there forever.
Congressman Barr didn't run.
Strom didn't just jump in to be elected for the first time at age 100.
Yeah.
Is he 100? Bob Barr's not 100. He's got to be in the 70s.
No. I mean, but Bob is probably way up there. But I mean, the same thing in Arizona. I mean, if Governor Ducey had chosen to run, they would win. They would win out there. But these governors have been alienated by the MAGA crowd, and so they're like, no, it's not worth it, because they're not going to be conservative enough.
Yeah.
For
the fact that Kari Lake almost won that seat tells you how weak the Democrat was.
Yeah.
What, did she have a job in the administration?
I'm sorry. I mean, Kari Lake to me as a senator would have been scary.
Does she have a job in the administration or something like that? You know.
Well,
Carrie Lake? I think so.
Carrie Lake is over like the whole public broadcasting thing.
I
Is
think so.
she?
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's
So
been out
Because you know,
there.
Carrie Lake used to go on George Norrie's show a lot, Coast to Coast AM.
I could hear that. I can imagine that. Her voice is very. If you listen to her voice, she'd be good for like late night radio, UFO type stuff that she could be
Do you think
talking about.
maybe she'll increase? Maybe she'll bring Coast to Coast AM to PBS and replace Noel with Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah, so I mean, you just have these things that are going on there. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I look at Virginia, and I'm just like, I don't really know how Sears wins, but you never know. I mean, it's
Well, here's the thing: Virginians, when they go to vote, okay, they need to ask themselves a question: do you really want to give the Democrats a blank check? Because Abel Spamberger, what's going to happen is she's not going to protect women's, keep boys out of women's locker rooms or women out of boys' locker rooms, as we just learned in the Northern Virginia case. She's not going to be a fiscal conservative. She's going to basically do what Wes Moore did in Maryland, where he took the entire surplus and turned it into a deficit. She'll do the exact same thing in Virginia. We'll take the surplus, make it turn into a deficit. It would be, it would be the worst thing Virginians could do since voting for Ralph Northam for governor, frankly.
Yeah, she'd be a disaster. But it has gotten closer. I mean, now you're looking at single digits, so you're within 10 points. So I think
that's if when Winsome Sears wins, that's going to be the reason people want to check on the Democrat House and Senate.
Yeah, because think of all the bad bills that Youngkin vetoed. Well, Spamberger's going to get those same bills, pretty much.
She's not going to veto them.
Huh?
She's not going to veto those.
So that I think would make the argument. And Youngkin has cut a commercial for Winsome, so that was good. And then we also need to get Jason Miyares reelected as Attorney General.
I think he's going to win. I mean, he's going to pick up some key endorsements.
Yeah, and he's running against a Soros type.
Yeah. Also, the Virginia HBCUs have all endorsed Jason Miyares for governor.
So we'll see what happens. So I wouldn't be totally pessimistic on the case, but it's just sort of tough for us because with Virginia has a standard sort of history of the party in the White House the next year loses the governor's mansion of Virginia, but it's happened once in my lifetime where that didn't happen. So maybe we'll make
that was Governor Gilmore.
Well, that would have been McAuliffe the first time. He was running against Ken Cuccinelli in 13.
Yeah.
But Cuccinelli was kind of a weak I mean, I like him, so I don't wish to be mean to say a weak candidate, but he had some baggage. And
well, he also had not only the baggage, also like McAuliffe was just at fundraising him.
Well, yeah, and then also we had a problem we were divided party-wise. Bill Bowling decided to sit it out because Cuccinelli leapfrogged him for the nomination.
Yeah.
And Bowling wasn't happy about that, nor a lot of his supporters.
Yeah, I don't think Bowling has really ever gotten over that. I mean, now he kind of sits back. I mean, he's teaching, but he also is kind of, if you look at him on Facebook, he's basically trying to be kind of the analyst of what's happening in Virginia politics. And, it's probably, I guess it's a relatively fair-minded viewpoint, but but he doesn't seem to be terribly upset, if the Democrats, have a sweep, in Virginia.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to sweep. I really don't think it's going to be a sweep for them. I think Jason and I think what was his name? John Rich?
John Reed. John Reed.
Okay. I'm sure if John Rich ran for lieutenant governor, he'd win too in Virginia.
Yeah, John Reed's a great guy. I've been on his radio
John
show.
Rich?
Yeah, well, yeah, probably. But John Reed's a great guy, and I think he's got a weak opponent. So I think John Reed's got a shot too.
Yeah. I mean, even
Yeah.
Jason's opponent is for Sharia law and all that crazy stuff.
Yeah, he's a Soros type. I don't know if Soros is given in this case, but probably has in the past to the guy.
Yeah, I mean that the key thing there for those guys will be, the Spanberger. I mean, if she goes in there with a strong lead, does she have coattails to take the others, bring the others with her, or do people start splitting their ticket?
Yeah.
You know, and the way since Virginia's system is a little bit different than Maryland's,
Yeah.
so you never know what you're really going to get.
And I tell you, remember in the old days, yeah, Alexandria and Arlington were blue, but Fairfax was fairly red. Loudon was red.
Loudon was great. Prince William was great, but those
Yeah.
have gone. Fairfax was Democrat lean, but swing. We could win it. But now
George
it's like
Allen won. George Allen won Fairfax County. Remember?
Yeah, and so Bob McDonnell was the last Republican governor to carry Fairfax. But now Fairfax is more like an Arlington or Montgomery County. I mean, it's that partisan Democrat.
A lot of Montgomery County people moved over there.
Well, yeah, it's true, and it pains me to say because I grew up in Fairfax County, so I've always considered myself a Fairfax County guy. So it's always pained me to say that and admit that.
But you grew up in McLean, which is always very kind of lefty leaning.
Yeah, but in McLean, it was a Republican lean, but there were country clubbers, country club Republican types. They weren't all that conservative socially.
Like your classmate Liz Cheney, right?
Yeah, that's right. I remember her. Yeah, she and her sister. I don't remember her sister so much, but I remember Liz.
His sister's the lesbian, right?
Yeah. And I used to see Cheney around town, so I used to see him. Dick Cheney.
Yeah. Did you know Governor Dalton at all?
No, but Linwood Holton lived in Virginia, and he lived a long life. I think he was into his 90s. He passed away about 10 years ago. Very nice man. Very nice guy. He's the father-in-law of Tim Kaine because it was his daughter that married Kaine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had a friend who worked at GMU, and Holton, who taught there, had some relationship with the university. And on my friend Everett's last day, he said Holton came in just to say goodbye to him because he knew it was Everett's last day. So I thought that was very nice of Holton.
And we've got, we just had our red, white, and blue dinner on Wednesday, Don. Secretary Zeldin. EPA is a cabinet position, right? He's secretary, not administrator, right? Because EPA was elevated as a cabinet department.
Yeah, it's a cabinet position.
Yeah, everyone's calling him Administrator Zeldin. I think he's Secretary Zeldin now. But he gave a great speech, a nice turnout for the dinner. I think there were probably about 250 in the room, maybe. Great speech.
These events just keep getting more expensive, Dwight.
Tell me about. Oh, and let me tell you, the vegetarian meal was not that bad. It was okay.
You do see the gamut from hotels when you do that, don't you?
By the way, the best place has been. I'll tell you, the best vegetarian meal I got was at the Woodhome Country Club, followed by at Turf Valley Country Club. They used to always give me manicotti. Finally, people who understand vegetarians still eat cheese and pasta. It's not mushroom and vegetables. That is not the vegetarian meal. Yeah.
Yes, it depends upon who the chef is.
Yeah. And I'll give the food was okay. And so that was good. And then we have a lot of news stories this week. Congress is back in town. The circus. One side is trying to spend the money, and the other side is trying to keep them from spending the money. That's good.
Well, I mean,
that's shutdown potential brewing.
Right. Yeah. This is going to be another stare down showdown, right? I mean, we've got 11 days.
Well, I mean, Chuck Schumer can make a deal and we could start operating the business as usual, but no, Chuck Schumer wants to shut the government down for political points.
Well, I mean, I think Rand Paul is also in that camp of like, you still want to spend too much money. Um, you know,
Yeah, I mean, they are. I mean, even as is Congressman Massey's in that same boat. Um,
Well, I'm sympathetic,
Uh,
but at this point, I mean, it's going to be kind of a bad time for us to go through a long shutdown with the economy sort of teetering, with all the other issues you got. So I'm sympathetic, but at the same time, we don't need a shutdown at this point.
yeah,
and unemployment numbers will be going up.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm President Trump, I'm encouraging Mike Johnson and Thune and these guys to figure this out and cut some kind of, go ahead and if you need to do the stopgap, fine, to buy a little bit
Yeah.
more time, and hopefully the stopgap will be the last one that you do, and figure this out. Figure out the spending part, figure out what you're going to do, but avoid a shutdown. I mean, the shutdowns generally don't go very well for the Republican Party.
No.
And as David said, I mean, look, we've got an economy that we're really not sure exactly where we're going here. It is wobbling now because we're now starting to see the effects of the tariffs. Inflation is very sticky and kind of moving slowly up. Unemployment is moving up. So you don't want to push the country into a recession, and you don't need any more people, even if they're on, they're just being furloughed temporarily while you do this, because in the end, I mean, the federal government workers get paid, right? They always get their money. They just don't get it until it's all over. So yeah, and it's really easy for the press, the Democrats, to point the finger at the Republicans for being the ones, in the way of on these shutdowns. The Democrats usually seem to come away unscathed on most of these.
Yes. I mean, remember the first shutdown of the Trump era in 2016, 2017? It was almost 2 months was the shutdown.
I didn't remember that. I didn't remember it was that long.
Yeah, it was a long time. Because I remember I was telling people, oh, look, just brace yourself. This is not going to be an easy shutdown. It may not have been quite 2 months, but it was over a month, that shutdown.
I think the longest one was probably in the Clinton years, wasn't it? That's the longest one I remember. I thought that was the longest one. Clinton and Gingrich.
I think the Trump shutdown was longer than that one. But I tell you, here's the thing. But you know what the longest government shutdown was? When we shut everything down for the pandemic. Everything was shut down. And nobody had any problems then,
Yeah, and remember what they did is they closed the state parks. I mean, the national park was just closed, and why? You could just keep that open, and it's just a parking lot and all that. I think they were trying to make the point. The government was trying to make the point.
That was Obama's shutdown. Remember when Obama shut down? That was when the zoo just had Bao Bao or Tai Tai or whatever, or Mei Mei, the baby panda. They had a panda cam.
Okay.
They actually had somebody go in to physically turn off that feed.
All right, so here it is. Longest government shutdown, 35 days, December 22, 2018 to January 25, 2019. That was a partial shutdown that occurred during the administration of Trump. 95, 96, Clinton administration, 21 days. And then 2013, standoff over the Affordable Care Act, 16-day shutdown under Obama.
Okay.
So there's some things to chew on there.
Yeah. And you know what's funny?
I don't know about you. See, except for the fact that the Republicans usually wind up being the losers on this thing, politically and all this kind of stuff from a PR standpoint. It's like I think this is a little bit like Doge. It's like the furloughs people. So how much of government is really affected? How many of these people do we really need?
But Don, here's something else for you, right? Can we do this? Make the government work week 4 days. So at least on Fridays, there's not traffic that bad on the roads as it is every other day because everyone's going to work. You know, I
Are you
do want to
talking
see.
four? You talking 4 10-hour days? You talking 4 days, and then everybody takes a 20% pay cut.
20% pay cut.
Yeah, that'll take somebody with a lot of courage to get that through.
President Trump, make it happen. A 4-day work week for government employees. And you already have big labor advocating for a 4-day work week and a 3-day weekend. So what's the harm in doing it? Start with the federal employees.
Yeah,
And they all don't like coming in on Fridays.
Those guys want to turn us into like Europe, where they're barely working and barely being productive.
Yep. And there's a reason why Hershey is the world's favorite candy, because those European candy manufacturers can't compete with Hershey's. But I can't believe it's been almost.
So I don't know where we wind up with on the shutdown and the whole spending bill and everything like this. I think they will eventually figure out some kind of solution to this, but if Republicans go back to their roots, and try to be fiscal conservatives, I'm with them. I think then let's do it. Fight it out. Then that's worth fighting for. But if you're just fighting over increased spending, no, just figure this out and then get it done. Then, all the money from tariffs is not going to not going to do anything on our national debt. Won't do anything on the deficit. So, consumers and the rest of us will just bear the burden of that kind of stuff. But take that political football off the table so we can focus on other things.
Very true. And speaking of sticking with the president, he's in the Empire today, or he's on his way back from the Empire. But he spent the last 3 glorious days in the British Empire. I do believe that joint press conference where the prime minister was asked about Palestine, I think Trump being there made it possible for him to basically stand his, be tougher against Hamas than he would have if there was no American President Trump standing there next to him.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting visit too, because despite Trump's kind of tough stance on trade, tariffs with these countries, he's actually pretty chummy with the Brits, and I think the kind of thing that they did for him is that the king played perfectly into Donald Trump. Just made him feel real good. Made the whole feat. All this pomp and circumstance. Yeah. Trump loves it. It's like he gets to be the center of attention, which is exactly what Donald Trump loves, and so and he has a pretty good. Trump has got a pretty good relation with Keir Starmer as well, so they all get along. So I think in the long run, it's the UK, Great Britain, they're not going to get stung as hard on trade tariffs kind of thing as other countries. I think
very true.
Trump has got warm feelings towards the empire.
Yes. What's that?
He's an Anglophile, so he loves England. And his mother's from the UK, right? She was born in Scotland.
Yeah.
I wonder if Trump supports Scottish independence.
I don't know. He hasn't commented. I don't think he will.
By the way, it would have been funny if he had just said, "Welcome," instead of somebody addressing us. How the leftism calling him king. If King Charles would refer to President Trump as "Your Highness."
Well, they could use that. Put the great back in Great Britain.
Yeah,
that could be the slogan.
Honestly, they need another Margaret. They need someone like a Margaret Thatcher who can fight the coal industries.
Yeah, I was surprised. Ross didn't turn out to be the Margaret Thatcher.
Uh,
I guess I shouldn't have been surprised.
she
'Cause-
became the female Neville Chamberlain, so to speak.
well, she was so they didn't give her any time. I mean, she was there for the shortest PM premiership of my lifetime, like 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah,
In
I
the French,
people like
wasn't
that.
it
I mean,
that
you
she
got to
was-
give them more time. You got to
Yeah.
give them more time.
Wasn't she like
Right.
the conservative, and she wanted to do conservative things, and they got rid of her?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. You
And
think they
here's-
would have known that going in? They picked her.
Now here's a question, right? We all know the expression when France sneezes, Europe catches a cold. The government is falling in France. Is
Yeah,
that the
that's right.
same as France? Is that the same as France is about to sneeze, and we're going to see these European governments have stability issues? Versus, there might be elections called in the empire. The Italian government, it's a miracle it's lasted as long as it has, frankly.
Well, I don't know how long Starmer has to call an election, so I don't know how much time he's got. Maybe
Well, I
he's
mean,
still-
they're elected to 7-year terms,
right,
but but they could call an election early, or they could
Yep.
be,
right.
or all the other elections. They had the by-elections they have could force them to do something, because they could collapse. Their coalitions could collapse in the meantime. So
Mhm.
if they start, now they pretty much wiped the board on that last election. So they're in really good shape right now. But when it comes time to the by-elections, they could start losing a lot of ground, because the Brits are like a lot of people in all these other countries with parliamentary elections, is that they're very restless, and they vote kind of on a whim. And if the economy in particular is not doing well, you're not doing well, they will vote you out. And it's really not necessarily a Labor versus Tory type of a thing. It is just, how are we doing? And do we have another person out there that we think will actually turn this around, and keep me, give me a good job, and, can I save money and, build wealth for my family, et cetera, et cetera. And Starmer and his administration has run into a real buzzsaw. So the great hope of the Labor Party, is fading away very, very fast. So, Starmer is not going to make it through 7 years.
Very true.
There's probably going to have to be election somewhere, maybe by year 3 or by year 4.
If not sooner.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen. I mean, that's the one thing about the parliamentary election system, is just that, these things, you can get some pretty shocking results, and just when you thought, okay, we're going to be fairly safe, we might lose a seat or two, and then you lose more than that, and then you're in trouble. I mean, Japan had that problem recently. France, it's more of, their coalition was very weak to begin with, and all it took was the no confidence vote, in essence, and another prime minister goes by the boards in France. So Macron, his days are numbered.
Yep. I mean, it's not like they kind of are trying to keep Le Pen from being able to form a government, frankly. Le Pen could probably put a government together. But I think a lot of
she's a real threat, but I mean, I tell you, that's one direction I don't think we want to see France to go in.
Very true. And then you also, it's just a matter. I tell you, I think Giorgia Meloni is doing a great job as Prime Minister of Italy, but their governments fall. They're overdue. It's kind of like, when people say California is overdue for an earthquake and they're due for one, Italy's due for a government fall. The government falling. It's been so long.
Well, if the government falls in the next couple of months, we will credit you, Dwight, with having that massive prediction or jinxing it.
Yeah.
She's held on. She's done well, surprisingly well. In a country notorious for unstable government.
Yeah.
So it's
The last time they tried to have a government was when Praxis was running the country. And to all the Trekkie viewers, Praxis was the Italian prime minister's name, not the Klingon moon that got blown up in the beginning of Star Trek 6.
So anyway, we started talking. We started this off here by talking a little bit about AOC and Charlie Kirk, but we didn't really get to the Jimmy Kimmel story, which has become a very big story. So David, you should probably have some thoughts on Kimmel.
Yeah, I'm working on a column on that, and I should have it up tonight or tomorrow. Basically, what Kimmel was doing really was pushing a lie, which is, oh, we lefties didn't kill Kirk. Oh, it had nothing to do with his politics. May have been. He floats that out. It might have been a MAGA person that did it. And I was reminiscent of, it reminded me of, the Lee Harvey Oswald denying it was Lee Harvey Oswald because he was a lefty. He was a commie. And they tried to deny it all my life, hearing how it wasn't Oswald. It might have been the John Birch Society. It might have been the CIA. They had all these silly nonsense. And so Kimmel being fired wasn't so much because of an attack, the Trump administration, the FCC's attack on freedom of speech. It was that the affiliates, such as Sinclair, such as, I guess, New Star, the other one, saying we don't want to carry a show anymore. So that is the marketplace. It isn't really an attack on free speech. And also, Trump made the point.
And let me get to this, okay? President Trump had nothing to do with the firing. He was fired by ABC Disney.
Yeah.
President Trump cannot fire people that work in the private sector. As much as you liberals think, if you work for, say, Bechtel, he can't fire all the Bechtel employees.
Yeah.
They got fired. He got fired because of stuff that went counter to what his boss's visions were. Frankly, he got fired. The same reason Marv Albert got fired. Don Imus have his free speech
after the 9/11, his 9/11 comments.
Yeah, Bill Barr. And then you have
and the other thing I would add, I agree with you, Dwight. The other thing I would add is that he was probably in a weak position anyway because his ratings are nothing special. So it may have been, this is our excuse to fire him. They've got their excuse too.
Yes. I tell you, one of our writers did a funny story, Don. Jake Sober wrote an article saying, he goes, ABC is going to replace Jimmy Kimmel's reruns of Nightline starting with season 1, 1980, the Iranian hostage situation.
Well, I mean, the way I saw it is that it's really more of a case of us. Disney took him off the air, but they could put him back on as early as Monday. There's talking about that, so it's still a possibility that he'll return. But between Sinclair and Nexstar, now see, Nexstar is trying to negotiate a sale or a merger. So Trump didn't have to even have. He didn't have to go in there and do anything really. Yep. It's just this whole overhang of the Trump administration and how things have been going that there isn't a company out there facing a merger like this that has to face FCC approval and stuff like that wants to take a chance and cross the administration. So now Sinclair, we know the Sinclair stations, they've always been very conservatively run, right?
Except our local Sinclair station in DC, Don, WJLA and News Channel 8. Those are the only two Sinclair stations that are not.
But they did try to institute some conservative things, and they got some flack for that. But they were trying to remake even WJLA, but it's but when your affiliates pull the plug, and I think Disney decided, well, let's maybe they're in a cooling off period for right now, as David said. The ratings. This is the same thing with Colbert Report. I mean, Colbert got fired, but the problem right now is just that late night talk is not doing well.
Yeah,
There none of these guys have been pulling very big audiences. This is not the old, David Letterman, Johnny Carson
Yeah.
days and stuff like that.
We
Leno,
joke. Yeah.
Those guys could pull in the ratings, and they were very popular. But people don't really watch this stuff much anymore. So it's not a big deal for them to yank these guys off the air and find something else, because their audiences are just not that big.
And these guys are being beat by reruns of Three's Company. I think if ABC were to put up reruns of Nightline, they would get better ratings than Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Jimmy Kimmel, it's a national show, and I don't even think he's getting 1 million viewers a night. And it's a nationwide show.
And it's not like there's a lot of competition other than Greg Gutfeld at that time slot of 11:30.
Well, there are people on cable networks beating him. So people could be on a cable network and have more viewers than a network.
And that's part of the landscape change, where Carson and Leno and Letterman really didn't have that kind of competition, right?
Yeah.
That really wasn't out there for that. I mean, I think didn't Conan, wasn't he on cable on TBS or something like that?
Yep, he was on TBS.
So things just shift over time. So now there's just, our interests are very different. People are probably, if they're up late at night, if they're not doom scrolling on their phones, they probably are streaming something on Netflix or watching YouTube videos.
Remember Joan Rivers, Arsenio Hall, and Chevy Chase were the competition, and they all came and went so fast. Joan Rivers, who the only person who probably could have done late night and beaten Carson and company? Merv Griffin.
Yeah.
He had like a show, I think, in the 9 o'clock hour. I don't know if it was a rerun of some.
I didn't know it was that late. I thought he had a show.
Yeah, Merv Griffin was on at 9, and it was a good show. I mean, I remember he had Ricky Schroeder on there once, years, and I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. He had Ricky Schroeder on there because Ricky Schroeder did some Christmas movie.
Well, if you remember, I mean, Rush Limbaugh for a while did a late night show. But
yes, I do remember that. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
I think the show itself, I think the people who watched it loved it. But
he didn't like the show, is what the story was.
They didn't get much carriage. They were, they would wind up on like the UHF channel 20, where it's limited viewership. Plus, you got, Rush was doing, he's doing a 3-hour national broadcast. That in and of itself is a lot of work. And then you got to do production on a television show.
Yeah.
It probably made sense in the long run for him to just say, nah, this is not going to work. I mean,
Rush used to talk about that on his radio show. He said, I didn't like doing the show. He did not like doing the TV.
Look, it's a lot of extra work. And
yeah.
So, I mean, he didn't need the money or anything. So
he was made for radio, really. I don't mean to use the old expression, a great face for radio, but he was a radio guy, really. And it's hard to do both or be good at both,
And Larry
Sean Hannity.
Sean Hannity's good.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Hannity can be good on TV, but the radio he stinks. But on TV, good looking, read the teleprompter.
No, I think he does pretty well. I mean, Larry King, I think, was the first one that did that transition, radio and TV, because he had that 3-hour, 4-hour radio show overnight. And then he did CNN. He had an hour. And see, the thing, the difference with Larry King's show on CNN was not typical of I don't think CNN would ever have a show like a Larry King Live anymore today. I don't think they do Crossfire. Remember Crossfire on CNN?
Mm-hmm.
Pat Buchanan and
Tucker was on it at one time. And Novak.
Yeah, Geraldine Ferraro.
Yeah, and Paul Begala and that guy.
They were the last ones. Paul Begala was the last of the Crossfire.
Who was that guy? Bill Press and not Bill Press, another lefty with gray hair. What's his name? Anyway.
But I mean, That was when CNN was relevant. Actually, that was the last time they were relevant when they had shows like that.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
remember?
Oh yeah.
I mean, you remember MSNBC had Tucker Carlson and Michael Savage.
Yes. Yeah, they had Savage on. Yeah, but Michael Savage toned it down. He wasn't Mr. Conservative for that show.
Yeah, Michael Savage on TV versus Michael Savage on the radio were kind of two different people.
Didn't he have a show on NET also, Michael Savage?
No, you're thinking of a guy who kind of looked so much like him. What was the guy's name?
John Lofton?
Really... Yes. And he's very obnoxious. Did you ever meet him?
I met him twice, and yes, he was.
He was obnoxious. He passed away, but didn't he have a brother who was involved in the conservative movement? I think he had a brother who was a writer.
And then you had, I tell you, the best show we had was Next Revolution.
Yeah.
I just think how much money free comics would make if they'd copyright Next Revolution. Because Fox had a show called The Next Revolution with some British guy.
Yes. He's now running, Steve Hilton, who's now running for governor
of California.
Yeah.
Georgia or California?
Georgia. California, excuse me.
Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, so, and we got the Charlie Kirk Memorial this weekend. I wonder if the left will be on their best behavior, at least and they won't do something obnoxious,
Well, speaking of that, though, it's good for us not to do anything obnoxious too and replay the Wellstone Memorial. I don't know if you remember the Wellstone Memorial.
I do remember that. That's how we got a Republican elected to the Senate.
That's right. Yeah, because it was so overdone. Yep, Norm Coleman. So let's tone it down too, because if it turns into me more of a pep rally, that doesn't help us, I don't think.
See, we're not like that. We don't do that. We're more somber and subdued. We don't turn these things into, we don't get the, like they had the unions and all those people were there. Walter Mondale was there, and
Yeah. And Walter Mondale ended up taking the seat, right? Walter Mondale was in the seat.
He lost.
Okay.
He lost to Norm Coleman.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize it was, wow. How sad. Sad way for him to end his career. He probably wanted to stay in retirement. He probably didn't want to get back into it.
Norm Coleman was a Lincoln Day dinner speaker in Montgomery County years ago. But
yeah, I think he got gypped out of his reelection.
Who's that? Norm Coleman? Yeah.
Coleman, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then
and I rarely say things like that, but it just it looks like there was.
Remember that was 2006 that he lost. That was also the same cycle. George Allen lost in a very close race. Governor Ehrlich lost re-election in a very close race. And those were bad years for Republicans too. I was convinced we would hold the House and Senate until Congressman Foley from Florida that got into trouble? Yeah.
Yep. Mark Foley. Yeah.
Mark Foley. The one who brought down the class of '94.
Yeah, we have some people who we are not proud of.
Yeah.
But it's always, if it's a Republican, they take you go down with they take the party down with them. Democrats can be as crooked and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look at John Corzine.
And the party survives.
Yeah, I mean, look at John Corzine or Norm Menendez, the last senator from New Jersey. Both of them, Corzine and Menendez, were both very ethically challenged.
Yeah.
Well, you remember Charlie Diggs?
Yeah.
You got that. Who was our friend from Rhode Island? He got into a scandal. He got into a
Jim Jeffords.
Not Jeffords.
Not Jeffords. The guy who was a homosexual with a page.
Oh, Bernie Frank.
Jerry Studs.
That's it. Yeah.
Studs.
Yeah.
Because Barney Franks also got caught in that banking.
Barney Franks, but Barney survived. His was, I don't know. I think the one with Studs was worse, but they go do that. I mean, you compare that to something like Bauman, right? I mean, and it's like, bye. So the Republicans have got this unfortunate history of these people.
But
who've
we've gotten good at. Remember Steve King from Iowa? We got rid of him, and we did that pretty fast. That was the fastest thing we've reacted to that.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah,
came out to defend Steve King.
Well, Steve, the guy from Iowa that we got rid of.
Yeah, Steve King. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And I actually kind of liked Steve King, but I mean,
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
but you have to kind of watch what you say. I mean, it just,
Yeah.
especially if you're a Republican.
I met Steve King in Iowa.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember flying back on a
Not
plane.
Iowa. I'm sorry. In Cleveland at a convention.
Yeah.
I got a picture with Steve King. But
Yeah. But I mean, you look at a guy like Steve King who kind of got railroaded. I mean, this is the same thing about, okay, look, free speech. We're talking about free speech. We're talking about First Amendment. He has maybe what he says is wrong. Maybe it's, he never should have said it, but he has the right to say it. And you're not advocating directly to go kill people or have a insurrection against the government, take down the government. That's a problem. Okay, and that's why even AOC, we don't agree with her remarks, but she's protecting. She has a right to say this. And so this is where Trump is like just off base. Following up on cars. Remarks about license, taken away, or you're looking at these broadcast stations and their licenses, and Trump's out there like, yeah, well, they have licenses, and all they ever do is say things against Trump. Well, too bad, by the way, Ted Cruz say things against Donald Trump. They're not saying go kill the president, so they're fine.
And and here's the thing: we've got our side of the media that said thing. We never said go kill Barack Hussein Obama. But we did say Barack Hussein Obama, and basically a lot of our stuff was true, though. That's the sad part, But we gotta, you don't think President Reagan wanted to go arrest the media, or President Nixon didn't want to go? They all.
Woodrow Wilson shut him down.
Yeah,
Abe Lincoln, Woodrow Wilson. Yeah. They cracked down the media. FDR.
Yeah, I think
you who didn't though.
You run a dangerous president. I mean, Trump is basically trying to do a lot of different things. He's kind of like, I'm going after people who've gone after me, regardless of whether or not it's constitutional or whatever. But if the next time the Democrats get power, you better watch out, because it's like when you start upsetting the norms and start making these challenges, this can come back to bite you.
I mean, look at the Democrats.
Ted Cruz is, he's completely against what Card said about the licenses. I mean, these networks, they have a right to operate, and if it means that there's criticism, we don't have a fairness doctrine, so there's not equal. No one has to do. There's so much going on out there, The free speech, Pam Bondi kind of just screwed up her whole free speech, remarks. I mean, she muddled the whole thing and just kind of screwed up. And it's like, this is our attorney general. She's got to do a better job than this. If you're trying to,
I think in the case of Pam Bondi, she tends to at times, and this is a knock, but she tends to. It seems to be she misspeaks, and I think in part she did that the Epstein case, and I think in terms of hate speech, I think what she was probably talking about in her mind was threatening. I don't think it was just things that she disagreed with, but I may be wrong. But that's what I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, that she's talking about, like threats and things like that.
Which is right. I mean, hate speech and threats, right? Hate speech is not a disagreement. Hate speech is a threat. I mean, the kids on those college campuses that have protested against Israel, they have a right to be there. But if they are threatening the safety of Jewish students, if they're advocating for the elimination of Israel and things like that, advocating for stuff like this, then I think you can put that into a hate speech category, type of thing like that, because they've moved off of that. I think that First Amendment platform. But yeah, I would like to give Bondi the benefit of the doubt, but I don't know. It is her so far she's kind of been up and down. So
Well, and the other thing I would say in terms of, hey, this will come back to bite us once if a Democrat becomes president, I agree with that. However, there are a lot of conservatives who would say, oh, they've already done these things to us already.
well,
So
and they
we're not
have,
saying.
and they're. I mean, this is kind of our version of what they had done to us. But do we need to do that? I mean, it's like are we out there to cancel people after we're complaining about cancel culture? Are we now have are we invoking a new
But
era of
are we
conservative
here's
cancel culture?
are we canceling Jimmy Kimmel, or is this ABC Disney that suspended him? He hasn't been
Well,
fired,
I
he's been
mean,
suspended.
yeah, it was. Look, I think it was. I want to believe it's a business decision, but I also think that the whole Nexstar thing hanging over them with the affiliates merger, all of these things. I think the networks they are looking at the climate that we are in and saying, maybe it would behoove us to pull back for right now, so we don't get into the crosshairs of Donald Trump because
Hmm.
he has shown himself in just 8 months to be extremely not vengeful, but also extremely powerful. I mean, he's gotten these networks to give him a lot of money, settling all these lawsuits he's filed. Though this ridiculous little $15 billion lawsuit against the New York Times got thrown out right away. It's like Trump will continue to push that envelope. It's like
Remember,
15 billion.
revenge is a dish that's served best cold.
Well,
Was it
he was,
Bond,
I
or
guess,
was it
I guess he's, I was guess he was hoping for he could get some money so he could pay off E. Jean Carroll or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Okay, our guys, part of me, I see where you're coming from, Don, but I also see it this way. Okay, we've been beaten up since the Nixon days. It's nice to see a president that plays offense for a change. He's just doing. I mean, everyone accused President Nixon of having an enemies list. He may have had an enemy. He may have had a list of few people that were not on his Christmas card list. They accused George W. Bush of having an enemies list, and we never did any of these things, and we're really, and we didn't sick the IRS on people like the Clintons or the Obamas did or the Bidens did for disagreeing with them on policy. We're the good guys. We're the white knights. They're the black knights on the other side. We're the good guys, We're the Justice League. Well, they're the Legion of Doom, So
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm glad that we have an administration in the sense that wants to try to hold the media somewhat accountable so they don't keep spewing lies, but but lies. People lie all the time. I mean, it's not like you're not
So
going to
Don,
get.
how would your dad react to President Trump and how this is all going on? Because your dad was a media analyst, he was fair and balanced. He was critical of Republican administrations as well as Democrat administrations over the years.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he'd look at this as something as Trump is overreaching. He's overstepping on this. Is that you don't need to go that far. You've got the powers. You've got the levers of government. You've got the power to do a lot of things, but you don't have to start. Especially when you've started off your administration by talking about how the free speech is back. And signing executive order and all this kind of stuff. We have free speech in this country again, and then you go and you do this, and you're like, well, then it looks somewhat contradictory. Let the media, let these guys, just go ahead and make these mistakes, so that we can go and say, look what these guys are doing here, rather than muddying the issue about whether or not this is. You want to pull a license? Is this a violation of the First Amendment or whatever? You let the liberals go on long enough, they destroy themselves.
And to piggyback on that, not to interrupt, but to piggyback on that, in some ways, people argue that we're already winning the culture war.
Yeah.
So there's no need to use the heavy hand or threaten the FCC. Now, I think as Dwight made the point earlier, it wasn't the FCC and Brendan Carr that got, or Trump certainly, that got Jimmy Kimmel fired. It was the fact that the affiliates were like, yeah, we don't want any more of this guy. So,
And remember, I mean, affiliates have power over the networks. If you remember, Don, back in the 80s, there was an episode of Cagney and Lacey where they had an abortion. Somebody had an abortion on the show. I'm not sure if it was Cagney or Lacey, or maybe it was some other character that had an abortion on the show. There were like almost, there were a lot of CBS affiliates that did not run that episode of Cagney and Lacey because of that. There were ABC affiliates that did not show the day after, and that happens, and networks, they can put the reruns of Hazel, and I think Hazel probably gets more laughs than Jimmy Kimmel does, frankly, in that time slot.
You keep bringing up the shows. Maybe Hazel.
they could rerun Benny Hill.
Yeah, Benny Hill. Now there's something for you.
Talk about canceling. Yeah, the left would cancel Benny Hill today.
Oh, I know. Yeah, absolutely.
I never understood that little bit with the ape chasing around room to room. Or was that from Laugh-In, where they go from room to room?
I don't know. You got Benny Hill. You got Monty Python. Yeah, got all these shows. It's like you just.
Yeah.
I mean, even Flip Wilson playing Geraldine.
Oh yeah. By the way, here's something funny for you guys. I'm one of that. If the networks really wanted to get like an audience, like get their audience shares back, stop showing. Like every now and then, like they could do this in the off seasons. Do like a turn back the clock night, where you go to your 1985 program or your 1974 Thursday night programming or whatever. Whatever day you want to do, and I think people tune in to watch that because they become must-see TV, as NBC would say.
Yeah, maybe so. You may want to look at the clock here, Dwight. Once again.
Oh, we're in extra innings, and I was kind of dozing off a little bit myself earlier. Okay, so final thoughts, Dave. Go.
Well, check my Substack if you would. I've got my podcast on my Substack, which is usually tonight is going to be tomorrow because my partner in this one, former delegate Phil Hamilton, is on a golf outing, I think, or doing something tonight. But tomorrow we're going to work that in. And also I should have a column. I'll do a column on Kimmel's firing. Should have that up tonight or tomorrow. But otherwise, doing good and hanging in there.
Okay, Don, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I should break out the violin or whatever for poor Joe Biden. Wall Street Journal reported this past week about how he's struggling to cash in on his presidency. Charging $300 to $500K per speech, and basically no one wants to pay him for that. He got a small book advance compared to what Obama's did. I mean, got $10 million, but I don't know. I mean, and he's working on this memoir. How many people are actually going to buy a book by Joe Biden? How many people want to listen to Joe Biden speak? And
it's probably, is it going to be a book or is it going to be like a coloring book or paint by numbers thing for Joe?
Yeah, and according to the Journal too, I mean, part of this was that I guess Biden's were hoping that they would be able to, bring in a lot more money because they were trying to use money to help their kids and stuff like that, particularly Hunter, who's got apparently millions of dollars of debt, and he owes his ex like $3 million.
Alimony, child support.
And surprisingly enough, Hunter's art isn't selling. So
nobody wants to buy Hunter Biden's macaroni art anymore.
Oh, so it's like
plus he's being sued by Melania Trump suing him for some lie he told.
Yeah, so I mean it's not really pretty. There's a lot of things. I mean, even for his presidential library, it's still a little muddy in terms of it's not going.
I hear he's going to change it to a presidential bookmobile.
Well, if they don't raise enough money, who knows?
It won't even be a full book. It'll be a minivan.
Might be on a much smaller scale than he anticipated.
It'll be a Chrysler minivan because Chrysler only makes minivans. They don't make sedans or trucks or anything anymore. They have one product. I see Stellantis must be like an Eastern European company because they're using the communist model. We make one car in one color, and you'll like it, and you'll drive it. But yeah.
Well, they are trying to fix the Jeep brand that they screwed up with. So, but anyway, so then then to add insult to injury, if there is excerpts from Kamala's book have come out, and she's more or less been throwing Biden under the bus, excoriating the Democrats for allowing Joe to run for re-election, which is rich coming from the person who didn't even win anything to become the nominee, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and she, if she's even remotely thinking about a 2028 run, she's burning a lot of bridges with this book. So I don't know that this was the smartest move in the world, and I don't know how many books she will sell either, because the Democrats are just they're just not doing well. I mean, their registration numbers are down. They don't have a leader. I mean, Josh Shapiro apparently is kind of the de facto leader of the party at this point. So they're still struggling, which is good for the Republicans, because Republicans aren't doing that great anyway in a lot of ways. So at least if I look towards the midterms, I'm like, well, maybe it won't be so bad, because the Democrats, here we are, coming up on a year away from the midterms, and the Democrats are still in a lot of disarray. So, we'll see what that holds in a year's time. And the wonderful Tim Walz is running for re-election. So in Minnesota, you can have 4 terms. So this would be his 3rd term. There was this excruciating. I'm on some DNC email, and there was some really horrid, thing from the DNC which was supposed to be like a text chain between Kamala and Tim about running again, and I'm like, I don't know. This is are you joking with me? Because this was just horrid.
No.
If you're trying to build support, it was a terrible email in the pretext of a text between Tim Walz and Kamala Harris about what Tim running for re-election. Some people just don't know when to quit. And I mean, there's no guarantee Tim Walz would win, but I mean, the state's Democratic enough that he would, but he's already proven himself. He was a terrible vice presidential candidate, and he's not a great governor either. So
in real life, Homer Simpson.
Yeah, and then just a final tribute to for baseball to Clayton Kershaw, who's announced that he's retiring, and he'll retire with the Dodgers. Has had a stellar career with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Will easily be elected 5 years from now into the Hall of Fame. Fabulous pitcher. Could have been probably even better if not for injury and some other things. But he's going out on his terms, and the Dodgers will be in the postseason, and whether or not they'll win the World Series again, I don't know. There's no real dominant team in baseball this year, so it could happen. It could happen to anybody, but they do have Shohei on their side, so maybe it gives them a little bit more of an edge. But yeah, pitchers like Clayton Kershaw don't come along very often, and he just had a fabulous career overall. And you're not going to see really pitchers like him going forward. They're so limited now. So that's it. Back to you, Dwight.
Yeah, Orioles Magic. They enjoy the role of spoiler now for the teams on the bubble. They're taking them out by actually winning games now. Orioles Magic, everyone. By the way, the Orioles, they are better than the Minnesota Twins, the Chicago White Sox, the Angels, the Athletics, the Nationals, the Braves, the Pirates, the Rockies, 41 wins only. Those are all the teams that are worse than the Baltimore Orioles, everyone.
Yeah, but in context though, I mean, the Orioles should have, on paper, it was thought that they were going to win, 90-ish games and be competitive instead of completely falling apart.
Yeah. I think the problem is the owner. I blame the ownership.
Well, that's a strange thing to me, Dwight, because they got new ownership. The complaint for years had been the man
Peter Angelos was a
Angelos is
cheapskate.
running the team.
And this guy's
and
just a bigger cheapskate as Angelos was.
yeah, I mean they need to spend money. They need to go out and get some players, to put around. They have some great young stars on that team, and they're only going to be there, while they're still under control, team control. So the clock is ticking, and but their pitching has just been just a mess. And if you can have some, and some of the stars have that didn't have such great seasons this year, but and that's why they wound up being sellers at the trade deadline. But I don't know. I mean, they look, they got they let Anthony Santander go to the Twins. That guy hit like 40 something home runs a year ago. They lost the power of that guy. They thought they could do otherwise. So the management, I don't know what's going on there. They maybe they were sitting back to see how this team would gel, but maybe this season has taught them that they need to spend some serious money and bring in some free agents and shore up this team and make a run for it next year. So.
And the Orioles currently are beating the Yankees, so maybe the Yankees are not in first place. Maybe they'll deny Yankees postseason.
Yeah, the Yankees aren't going to get to first, but they'll be in the playoffs. I mean, the Blue Jays there's only a handful of games left. The Blue Jays have got they've got a 4-game lead. They're going to win. They're going to win the division. But as I said, there is not a very dominant team in baseball today. So and so that the best teams you've got really are probably the Phillies and the Brewers have been playing the best. But there's no guarantee those guys can, run the gauntlet and make it to the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, even though people are saying or people are alleging the Brewers are the best team in baseball, I think that's a fluke. Frankly, I think they're just because they're not blowing teams out when they win. They're just edging out teams. So.
And they're a small market team. That's the other thing. When you're a small market team and you're that successful, that's saying a lot. I mean, you got to give them credit because they just don't have the resources as the bigger market teams. But the AL, I mean, anybody. I mean, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Tigers, the Astros, the Mariners. They're all any one of those guys could make it to the World Series.
But I think it's going to be the Phillies versus the Phillies will probably be the NL team in the postseason play. I think they'll take out the Dodgers in the championship series. And then it'll be Phillies versus
the
roll the
Dodgers
dice.
has been terrible lately, so that could always easily be.
I mean, roll the dice, on who the AL team is going to be. I would say right now, if I were betting, I think it'd probably be the Blue Jays right now. They seem to be.
They're a very good team.
Yeah.
The Tigers have been very good this year, but the Blue Jays have they came on.
They're like the Detroit Lions. It's like, Detroit's going to go to the Super Bowl. Yeah, just because they have a few wins and But who are the Redskins blaming today for their crappy start this year? By the way, are they blaming Dan Snyder still? They got a new ownership and they're still 1-2 now.
They don't have any defense. I mean, that's part of the problem. And they're they're playing the Raiders this week, but they're not. Daniels is out, so Marcus Mariota will start, which is that's okay. They may be able to still beat the Raiders with Mariota.
He could be their Jay Schrader. Remember when he stepped in and they started winning games?
Yeah, I don't know, but Marcus has been around. He's had a shot at starting and before, and he's now become the journeyman backup quarterback around town. So,
but that's about it for final thoughts on my end. We'll see everyone next week. Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Let's go down to Masoni's, where Italian cuisine shines. Let's go down to the Sony's. We'll have a good